All right, folks, we're back for part 2 of the orientation videos. We're looking at course recommendations and expectations. So first you need access to high-speed internet, and most likely you need to access at home to high-speed internet. So most of you are going to have maybe doing some work at home. I will note too, I know a lot of you use the Chrome textbooks, or not Chrome textbooks, Chrome tablets that the high school gives you. Generally, those work just fine, but I will note occasionally I will have like a documentary from YouTube that you may not be able to access. And in that case, please note you can load the Canvas app on your personal device, like your iPhone. And then on the Canvas, you can click on the modules and you can go to the video link and you can watch it on your personal device. So that's one way to do any like workarounds in terms of problems with your high school Chromebook blocking access. Also, if you guys were taking this at the college, would be talking about how it is not required, but it is advised that you've taken English 1A. English 1A is our college transfer level English. Now, if you've not taken that course, or if you've not taken a course in high school that teaches you how to do citations and research, it doesn't mean that you can't be successful in this course. It just means you may need to seek out some additional help, particularly in terms of citations. You're going to be doing a lot of reading, analyzing, evaluating course material from various sources, putting it together. That's called synthesizing information. That means taking information from various sources, putting it together in a written form to answer questions. So that also requires a little bit of reading and writing skills, right? Summarizing information, documenting your sources. And then the other thing, that I sometimes hear students like the reading, they struggle with the reading. The chapters are actually fairly short. But, some of you may or may not be used to picking up textbooks and reading them. Depending on your experience in the K through 12 system. So just be aware, like when you get to college, most of your learning is done actually outside the classroom, and most of that is done through reading. And I know it may seem like a lot of reading, but please be aware, the more reading you do, the quicker that you get at it, and the better that you get at it. And that's really important, because when you transfer on to junior, senior level, you're going to do even more reading. I think, and when I was in graduate school, on average, it was like 500 to 1,000 pages or more of reading per week, plus papers. So it really is important that you hone your skills, your reading and your comprehension skills. And on that note, most of the time when you're reading, it's best to do some sort of activity to keep you engaged in the reading. It's called active and passive reading. If you're doing passive reading where you're just reading, a lot of times you'll find that, your mind will wander. You'll be thinking about, I don't know, if you got some big game that evening, or, I don't know who you're going to hang out with for the weekend, or, whatever. And you find that you read for half an hour, but none of it sunk in. So that means doing notes, right? To do some active reading, taking notes as you read, jotting down questions, right? Annotating, that means, taking notes as you read. Something to keep your mind engaged and focused. The other thing to remember too is that you want as much as possible to have distraction-free zone. And if you're a person that doesn't do well with silence, there's lots of different apps. Calm app, Pandora has some like study music. I think even YouTube has study music, right? It's music that helps you focus, but is not distracting. So something to help keep you focused. But the one thing you don't want to be doing is reading a little bit and then answering a text or getting on social media, because studies have shown that when you do that, our brain takes like 10 minutes or more to refocus on the task. And so if you can imagine, you study for an hour, and in that hour you get on your phone 4 times, right? Your brain has now just taken 40 minutes of that hour to try to refocus on what it is you're doing. So we want to work smarter and harder. We want to do both, actually, smarter and harder. But definitely studying habits that are more conducive to effective studying is something to be looking at. In terms of homework time, in an 18-week course, you'd be looking at about 9 weeks total. So that's 3 to 5 hours of homework, and then the rest of that would be like lecture time. And you guys are taking it like an 16-week course, so it's probably more towards like 9, maybe a little over 10 hours a week of homework and lecture that you'll be engaging in. So make sure you also set aside the appropriate time to accomplish that as well. And then also the other thing, just to be really careful that you don't use the to-do list on Canvas. So when you log into Canvas, there's a little to-do list, right? And a lot of times we look at the to-do list and we want to click right on the assignment from the to-do list. The problem is that bypasses, yes, it takes you to the page with the assignment. In my class, most of the time it's going to show it's locked, and that's because I set up the module so that you have to go through the module, you have to listen to the lecture, you have to read the material before you do the assignment. So please, if you want to use the to-do list, use it more as a keeping track of what assignments that you have for the week and not as a way to access the assignments. Please access the assignments through the modules, and that'll keep you actively participating in all of the different material that goes along with that week's assignments, like a discussion board assignment. Okay. I'm not reading through all of this because you guys know how to read, and it would bore you to tears if I read through all of it. The next one is online etiquette in terms of discussion boards. So this one's just talking about how to treat one another with respect, how to be open-minded, how to respect other people's views, values, and opinions, and also remembering that you are free to express your views, values, and opinions, but you need to do so in a way that is respectful of others and understanding the impact of things like racism and the impact this has had on the lives of others, and maybe even yourself in terms of your life experiences, right? Understand and respect that we've got, diversity in the classroom, right? Diversity of background, ethnicity, race, culture, ideology. And that diversity is a good thing because it brings a wide variety of experiences and knowledge to the classroom, but it also means that we need to be aware of it and respectful of the fact that not everybody maybe shares the same life experiences, the same like I said, the same culture, the same values, the same views, right? And then just ask and really learning from one another, learning the different perspectives and views of others, and using that as a way to enrich your understanding of, the community and that you live in, for example, right? And also the experience of other people. And then the Zoom etiquette policy typically doesn't apply because unless you pop in for one of the live Zoom tutoring hours, the office hours, then we don't do a lot of live Zoom. But just be aware we do have a Zoom etiquette policy, right? Making sure that your, background is appropriate, that you wearing clothing and appropriate clothing and that you're being respectful. The next one is accommodations. I'm going to assume most of you probably have not gone through the DSS office if you have high school accommodations, but the high school may have facilitated that. I'm not sure. So if you have any sort of qualified, documented, in physical, psychological, medical, or other learning disabilities, you may want to reach out to the DSS office and see if you can get those accommodations transferred over to the college. And we offer things like extended time for exams, for students, and there are some other resources. I will note they don't do modified course content. We don't have a version of an IEP at the college, but we do offer some services, and we do offer things like a distraction-free zone to take tests. We do offer, like I said, extended time for tests as well. So like if it's a 40-minute test and you get double time, you'll end up with 80 minutes to take the test. And those are just the phone numbers to our DSS office. The next section is academic misconduct. So obviously online classes, two big things that you deal with. The first one is plagiarism, and the second one is the use of AI to generate answers. Don't do either one and you'll be just fine. Please do the work on your own. You are more than welcome to discuss homework assignments amongst yourselves, but you still have to turn in your own work. I have run into issues with students having very, very similar essay answers, almost identical with just a few words changed. That is cheating. That is not allowed. You certainly can help one another out, but don't share answers. Don't share your essays, because when they pop up and they're identical, then there's going to be an issue. And then also the use of AI, please don't use it. It sticks out like a sore thumb. I do require that you cite your sources, including the book and or lecture is required to be cited in each assignment. So use the book, use the lectures, do your work, don't cheat, and like I said, you'll be fine. If I do see plagiarism, the use of AI and fabrication of material, then it is an automatic 0 on the assignment or exam that it is found on. You don't necessarily fail the class per se, but if you do it enough times and you fail enough assignments and exams, you could also fail the class. But it definitely is an automatic 0 on the assignment on the exam that is found on. All right, the next one is just being aware that Merced College does have a policy on sexual misconduct, including prohibiting sexual assault, sexual harassment, domestic or dating violence, and stalking. And so if you are the victim of or you witness any such behavior, please understand that there is a process to report that, and there is a link there to our human resource page where you can learn more. The next one is the drop policy. This one is tricky. And the reason I say it's tricky is because, the CCAP classes have multiple high school students from Dos Palos, Pacheco, LB, that are all taking the same course. And sometimes you're taking the course in addition to your high school load, and sometimes you're taking the course as part of your high school load. And so if it's part of your high school load, obviously the counselors want you to make them aware if you drop a course, because this impacts obviously your course load. They have to replace it with another class, right? However, this is important to know, as a college student, you are treated like an adult. You are free to drop a course. You have the power to go in and drop a course. So if you are failing the course, it proves to be too much, right? Please know that that is an option for you. And then also you definitely do want to make your high school counselors aware, right? Most of you are taking this for some sort of high school credit to meet like a graduation requirement. So it is going to make a difference, right? You need it both for college credit and for your high school transcript. So you definitely want to communicate to your counselor. But I don't want you feeling like, oh, I don't have an appointment and so I didn't get to see my counselor and I can't drop the course. And this is important because once you get past census, there's a census date for the course. Once you get past that, you get a grade for the course. You can't drop anymore. And so, if it's a scenario where you're not doing well, you're feeling overwhelmed, you definitely need to drop before that census date passes. Okay. And then I also reserve the right to drop you for excessive absences, which I define as failing to log into the course at least once a week, or skipping 2 or more consecutive weekly discussions. Also be aware that you are expected to not to just to log in, but to actively be viewing pages. I should be looking, I can actually go in there and look and see how many hours you've been logged into the course, right? And if it's week 5 and you've been logged in for a total of 10 minutes, that's a problem, probably going to get dropped as well, okay? So it's not just about logging in, it's about logging in and actually viewing pages and participating and getting your homework done and all that jazz. All right, the other thing just to really remember is not to rely on me to drop you, right? You guys are adults in a college level course or treated as adults. And so if you want to drop, make sure you don't rely on me or wait for me to do that. All right, late work policy. So I am doing things a little different this semester because I was having a little bit too many problems with people turning in homework assignments from like 6 weeks ago, right? So what's going to happen is that when an assignment opens, it will close 6 days afterwards. And that's because I do a 20% late penalty per day. So 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 in 5 days. that assignment is no longer worth any points because you get 20% deduction per day. So on the 6th day, the assignment will actually close, so you won't have access to it anymore. So you need to be aware of that so that you don't run into the scenario where you're thinking, oh, it's week 10, I can go make up week 1 through 4 assignments. It doesn't work that way. You need to turn them in by the due date. I allow some flexibility, particularly on the discussion boards. You get to skip any 2 discussions that you want. You don't need to get prior authorization from me. It's any 2 that you want, you get to skip. So that's the flexibility that's built into the course. And then I will do short extensions on exams if you need it, if you reach out to me before the due date with no penalty. But you need to reach out to me before the due date, and we need to have an agreement. Okay, so that's my late work policy. Also be aware that for the most part, I don't do repeats on the quizzes, the chapter quizzes. It's just 1 attempt, 40 minutes. It's usually 15 questions. You get 40 minutes and you get 1 attempt. I often on the very first quiz do allow for 2 attempts because you are getting used to the quizzes, right? And I'm trying to give you at least a little bit of grace. But then I also do grade the quizzes on a curve. So if the highest score is, say, a 14 out of 15, I bump everybody's score up by 1 point. So that is how that works. Okay, the next section is going to take a look at the course schedule for the semester. I'm not going to do a video for that because it's pretty self-explanatory. Just kind of pay attention to the general pattern of things, right? Quizzes due Saturday, discussion boards due Sunday. There's a few odd and in assignments like the plagiarism quiz, which I make due on a Friday, but for the most part, it's Saturday, Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, Saturday, Sunday. Quizzes Saturday, and discussions on Sunday. All right, I'm going to leave it for there, and then you guys have the schedule, and then you have one more video that goes over the grading for the course.